Hi, everyone. Welcome to Building a Better School Breakfast Together, hosted by the Food Research and Action Center. I'm Steve Hayward, FRAC's Communications Manager. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few brief housekeeping items. We expect this webinar to run about 60 minutes. We are recording the presentation and will send the recording and slides in a follow-up email. Closed captioning is available. To turn captions on, click Show Captions in the bottom taskbar and select English as the spoken language. At the end of the presentation, we'll have time for questions and answers. To ask a question at any time, please use the Q&A tab, also in the bottom taskbar. With that, I'll pass it off to Erin Heisem, Child Nutrition Policy Analyst at FRAC. Take it away, Erin.
Thanks, Steve, and welcome everyone to FRAC's Thursday webinar, Building a Better School Breakfast Together. Next slide, please. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with FRAC, we are a national nonprofit organization working to eradicate hunger here in the United States. And we do that through a variety of ways, including advocacy, training and technical assistance, and conducting a variety of research on the federal nutrition assistance programs. Next slide, please. Well, welcome to back to school time, back to school week. And one of the most important topics as we get ready for our new school year is school breakfast. We have a lot to talk about today, and as always, not a ton of time to do it. So I want to jump right on in and share the game plan for today's webinar. I'm going to go over the state of school breakfast nationwide, talk about some of the research and benefits surrounding school breakfast and participation data and best practices for increasing children's access to this vital morning meal. And then I have a variety of speakers joining me today who are going to share their perspectives on how they are working to increase access to school breakfast and to improve students' experience. Starting right at the top, we have invited Samukta Nair to speak with us today as a student representative. Samukta is a senior in Edison High School in New Jersey, and this is her second day of school for this school year. So thank you for joining us. We also have Samantha King, school nutrition professional from Caroline County Public Schools in Maryland, who's going to give the operator's perspective on how they are ensuring that every student in Caroline County has access to school breakfast. And then Riona Kaur from New Hampshire Hunger Solutions is going to share the advocate perspective and what they are doing to partner with schools, districts, and students to promote the power of school breakfast. I'll jump back on and share some of FRAC's resources that you can get online, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. As Steve mentioned, you can enter a question at any time throughout the webinar by using the Q&A function on the bottom taskbar of your screen. Next slide, please. As I'm sure many of you know, there are a variety of well-researched benefits to school breakfast participation. School breakfast has been shown to improve the health and learning outcomes for students across the country. We know that children and schools today are facing a multitude of challenges, from chronic absenteeism to staffing shortages, to even some health problems for students themselves. School breakfast is really a vital public health program that tackles many of these problems. Research shows that school breakfast improves students' nutrient intake, fights against food insecurity, improves student behavior, concentration, alertness, and attendance. School breakfast is also associated with increases in academic achievement, particularly in math. We hear from teachers all the time that once a school adopts a robust breakfast program, students are better able to focus on the lessons at the front of the classroom rather than the hunger in their bellies. We see reduced visits to school nurses' offices. Children start their day ready to learn. And that's why we're here today, to talk about bringing the benefits of breakfast to as many students as possible. Next slide, please. You see here the average daily participation in school breakfast nationwide for the last few years. This almost sideways lightning bolt looks at participation levels prior to the pandemic, so way before the pandemic in 2018-2019 school year, where we had about 14.6 million children participate in the National School Breakfast Program on a given school day. You see that peak and that rise in the 21-22 school year. This is due to national waivers that allowed all schools to offer all students school meals at no charge. During the pandemic, USDA released waivers that essentially tested a national healthy school meals for all policy and really revealed the power and potential of school meals when we reduce the barriers of cost and stigma and make school breakfast and school lunch a natural part of the school day. When those waivers were rescinded, when those waivers ended, school breakfast participation plummeted to lower than pre-pandemic levels. The 23-24 school year is the last year that we have full data for, and you can see this rise, this increase, almost back to that peak level when their waivers were available. That rise, that increase in breakfast participation is really attributed to schools' adoption of CEP, the community eligibility provision, which we'll talk about in a few slides, as well as states passing policies like Healthy School Meals for All that really increase equitable access to school nutrition programs. And what I really want you to take away from this slide here is the power of policy. That policy can really reduce barriers and increase children's access to and participation in these vital nutrition programs. Next slide, please. There are a multitude of barriers to participating in a traditional breakfast model. So when I say a traditional school breakfast model, what I mean is when school breakfast is served before the start of the school day, far away, located maybe only in the cafeteria, children must consume that breakfast in the cafeteria before the bell rings, and we're still categorizing children based on their household income and circumstance. We're still determining eligibility based on free, reduced price, or paid meals. When we do this, when we categorize children based on their household income, we create almost a social hierarchy in the lunch or breakfast line, and it leads to stigma in participating in school meals programs, or a belief that school breakfast is only for children from low-income households. That stigma can prevent many eligible children from even participating in breakfast. Timing is another major barrier. As you all know, children, particularly younger children, they don't control how or when they get to school. They're often dependent on the adult in the household who may be taking them or the bus schedule. If we serve school breakfast before the start of the school day, we are creating a barrier to participation because children might not be able to get to school early. Serving breakfast in a cafeteria and not allowing a child to take that meal elsewhere throughout the school can also create a barrier. When we move breakfast out of the cafeteria and we serve it in a classroom or allow food to be taken into a classroom, we're allowing children to consume breakfast around their peers and to congregate and socialize with their friends and make it an enjoyable experience. And then the cost itself. For children on a reduced price, they could be charged 30 cents for breakfast, and then children that are qualifying for full pay would have to pay the full price for breakfast. And these cost barriers can prevent children from participating. There's also barriers to the operators. Operators need support from teachers and custodial staff, from administrators and principals, from students and parents, guardians, advocates, and community partners to really run robust nutrition programs. Many operators are still reporting labor and staffing challenges, and even some struggle to get menu items that meet the nutritional requirements that are culturally responsive to the communities that they serve and are what children want to eat. Next slide, please. There are two main ingredients in a winning breakfast recipe, and that is healthy school breakfast for all and serving breakfast after the bell. Healthy school breakfast for all means that we are offering all students school breakfast at no charge, regardless of their household income or circumstance. Breakfast after the bell is flipping that traditional model on its head. It's incorporating breakfast into the school day addressing many of those barriers of timing and location that we just discussed. There's a variety of ways to do this, and we'll get into it next. As I mentioned, CEP, or the Community Eligibility Provision, is a game changer for school meals. Community Eligibility Provision is an option under the National School Lunch and Breakfast Program that allows high-need, high-poverty schools to offer all students school meals at no charge. It was created in 2010 through the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act and phased in gradually over a number of years until becoming available nationwide in 2014-2015. And as you can see, there's been tremendous growth in the number of schools adopting CEP over the last decade. CEP allows schools to offer all students school breakfast and lunch at no charge. And it really is a game changer for increasing students' access to these vital meals and increasing participation. Next slide, please. And hopefully, as many of you have heard, since the end of those pandemic era waivers, there has been tremendous momentum around healthy school meals for all. Parents, guardians, families, communities, educators, they're all realizing the benefits of offering students school meals at no charge. School meals, school breakfast in particular, is just as vital as school supply as backpacks and transportation. We know that children cannot learn on an empty stomach, and healthy school meals for all addresses those barriers of cost and stigma and really raises nutrition equity so that more children have access to nutritious school meals. Starting this school year, 2025-2026, there are 9 states nationwide that have healthy school meals for all policies, and you see many, many more that are working towards passing state legislation that would offer all students school meals at no charge. Next slide, please. When we talk about breakfast after the bell, the key important point here is that breakfast is incorporated into the school day, that students are able to consume meals in their classroom and they don't have to go far away to a cafeteria to eat, or they don't have to arrive early to school. There are a variety of ways that schools are implementing breakfast after the bell models. The 3 you see on your screen now, breakfast in the classroom, grab and go, and second chance, are the most common models, but there's a variety of ways that schools are ensuring that students have access to breakfast at the start or even a little after their school day. Breakfast in the classroom is just like it sounds. Breakfast is served and consumed directly in a student's classroom. Grab and go refers to a model where students may grab their breakfast from a cart or a kiosk that could be located at an entryway or a high populous area where kids congregate, and then the child takes that meal to their next period class. And second chance breakfast is very popular in secondary schools, middle and high schools, where students typically start their school day very, very early, and they might not be hungry right away. Second chance breakfast refers to a break in the school day, often after homeroom or first period, where children have an opportunity to go get a breakfast and then eat it in their next meal. Eat it in their next class. I'm not going to elaborate too much on this because I know Samantha will talk about it more as she gives the operator's perspective. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you've heard me say this slide before, if you see me show this slide before, you've heard me say this, that I admit I'm breaking all the rules of PowerPoint and presentation here by having way too many words on this slide. But I think it's a really important message that I want to make sure everyone hears. Every year, FRAC surveys large school districts on nutrition program operations and participation. And about 2 years ago, we asked specifically, what do you need to increase breakfast participation? And one food service director had this to say: having the buy-in from school administration is so important. It really can vary from one school to the next. You can have one principal who thinks that breakfast is a waste of time and not worth the effort. You can have a teacher or a staff member discourage it in the classroom. And I've seen that firsthand, unfortunately. I came into this district 2 years ago. And when I got here, there was an impression that the students, didn't need breakfast because they're only 20% free and reduced. We can't assume everyone's eating at home or that they can afford breakfast. That was my first advocacy challenge. Since then, I have been really an advocate for these kids and making sure they are getting the access that they need. Next slide, please. My main comment is that breakfast needs support. And that's what we're here to talk about today. All the different players and partners who are working collaboratively to give students access to school breakfast. So first up, our first presenter, Samukta, is going to share with us, next slide, please, the youth perspective and what it means for students to have access to nutritious school breakfast. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Ms. Heisem. Yes, so as Ms. Heisem mentioned, I'm a senior in high school, and I think there is a lot of value in hearing from students about the importance of breakfast and also how we can work with all of the school administrators and just everyone in advocacy just so that we can increase breakfast participation and really just improve student wellness overall. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, I'm a senior at Edison High School, and I think that kind of gives a little bit of perspective as to what my ideas and just kind of perspectives are in terms of this, because we're hearing a lot of things about policy and a lot of statistics. But when it comes to students, the people eating the meals, I think that is a very, very important perspective to listen to as well. So, just a little bit about my work in advocacy here. I've worked with American Dairy Association and the Fuel Up program since I was in fifth grade. And I'm also a state representative slash ambassador for Hunger Free New Jersey. And I also research childhood executive functioning and children's education and brain development. So it all kind of plays a part in children's education and children's wellness overall. Yes, so next slide. So I think as we talk about the importance of staying fueled, we use this term a lot, but I think there are two parts to staying fueled. One part is the nutrition. Of course, we need students to, have the nutrition element. We want them to be eating healthy. We want them to stay healthy and really have that wellness component. But I think the other part of staying fueled is for them to have the energy and the ability to really execute everything in school. So I've listed focus, energy, and performance here. I think those are three main points that we have to cover when it comes to school breakfast and school meals overall. So first off, focus. I think this is a very important thing to cover because let's face it, a lot of students are coming in, they haven't slept, they're staying up late to study, they want to make sure they get all of their assignments in, they're managing so many different extracurriculars, and being able to dedicate specific time to each of those things is really difficult if you're doing it on an empty stomach. So breakfast is crucial in this area. Like imagine trying to take a test, right? So I just started school and we already have so many different assignments piling up. And I'm also a senior, so I'm applying to all of these colleges. And it's really hard for me. What I've noticed from previous years, especially, is like if I show up to school and I haven't eaten anything, or I didn't bring a snack or anything, it's really, really hard to focus. So, one thing I've noticed is if I go and pick up some breakfast, we have a grab and go kiosk in our school hallway. It's really just helped me, even if it's something small, even if it's a muffin or a piece of fruit, it really helps students just stay focused and be able to get their work done because they have a little bit of food in their stomach, right? So being able to focus is really, really important if we want to make sure that students are performing at their best. Now, here I've also mentioned energy. Energy is a huge component, right? You don't want to go into school just on that low energy mode. You don't want to be taking a test when you're really, really just down and not really having the motivation to do anything. Another huge component that this plays in is for school athletes. So if you're participating in sports, we have students who are participating in sports through multiple seasons. So it's not just the fall or it's not just the winter or the spring, it's multiple. Sometimes students participate in all of these seasons, right? And a lot of these students who participate in sports in one season or multiple, they also do sports outside of school. I have a lot of friends who play volleyball in school and they also do club volleyball. So that's a lot of practices. If these students are getting home at around like 6, 7 p.m. and they still have work to do and they're tired, making sure that they start their day with breakfast and, just making sure that they stay fueled is crucial for their success, not only in their sport, but also to be able to manage that school component all along with it. Now, here I've talked about performance as well. I think there's a lot of emphasis on test scores and being able to statistically make sure the schools are doing well. We want those numbers to look good. But those numbers are only going to reflect positive outcomes if we start off with the foundation. And that foundation is making sure kids are fed. And making sure kids are fed all starts with school breakfast. So making sure that these students are being provided with breakfast, whether that be through a free breakfast program or breakfast after the bell, these are all components in making sure that students are able to succeed and really have the energy in order to carry out. Now, another thing I'll bring in because I'm a senior, there are kids doing all sorts of things in order to get into these crazy institutions, right? If you want to get into an IB these days, you have to be not only a great student performing well in school or an athlete, but you also have to have a billion extracurriculars. So students are managing research, they're managing advocacy in all of these organizations and making sure they're part of clubs, right? There are so many things that are on their plate. So being able to manage all of this all starts with the fact that they're fueled and they're getting their nutrition in, and that starts with a great breakfast. Next slide, please. So I'll start off with a few examples of things that we've done at EHS. So EHS has a free breakfast for all program, so anyone can go in and have a free breakfast. And it's great because honestly, when you get there in the morning, it's right there for you. Now, one thing I want to highlight is not everyone gets to school super early. A lot of students come on the bus, so they are there early. But if you're coming and you're getting dropped off or you're driving to school, you might not have the time to go pick up breakfast in the cafeteria. So these are just some, examples of things that are in the cafeteria. We've had a create your own yogurt bar. We have cold coffee that's offered. And we also have a hot breakfast. But another great addition to this is the grab and go meals, right? I mentioned this before. There is a cart at the side of the hallway, and we're able to grab like a quick muffin or Pop-Tarts or cereal bars. They're all options and they kind of change every single day. So we get to get creative and it's something quick that students can have. And I think having that sort of ability to choose and make sure that every student has an option is really important because not everyone gets to school super early. So making sure students are fed whatever time they get to school is awesome. Next slide, please. Now, another part of really accommodating to the students is breakfast after the bell. So at EHS, a lot of classrooms and teachers allow us to eat our breakfast after the bell has rung. So it's not just in the cafeteria where breakfast is hosted. You can bring your food from there, or you can grab it on the grab and go station, and you can bring it to class and eat it. And this is awesome because, again, we're students, we're waking up super late. For me, I really don't want to wake up that much earlier to get to school. So being able to eat breakfast in the classroom is awesome because if I can have that, then I make sure that I'm fueled for the rest of my day and I'm performing well in that class. And I think it's a win-win because the students are fueled and then you're also able to participate well in that teacher's class. So I think both parties win in that situation. Now, variety and choice is a huge thing as well. We want students to be able to choose what they're eating, right? So a lot of students have dietary restrictions, or like me, I'm a very picky eater and I get bored very easily. So when things change, or I can kind of pick things. So like for example, in the yogurt bar, I might get sun butter and some fruit one day. I might change up the fruit the next day or the type of yogurt. And that just keeps it creative and makes sure students are engaged as they're having their breakfast. And so that the boredom or the inability to really eat something isn't a factor when it comes to being fueled. Now, grab and go, I've mentioned this a few times already. I think it's super important to have that aspect implemented into the breakfast programs because students don't want a sit down meal every day. Sometimes they just want to grab something and go. They're really, really busy. So even if they're not eating breakfast at that designated breakfast time, they can eat it whenever. Like everyone is on a different clock. And I think it's really, really important to recognize that. So having that grab and go aspect allows them to eat breakfast at whatever time they're hungry. Like I get hungry at about 9 o'clock, but some people need to eat at 7 or 10 a.m. And it just allows them to do that. And then, of course, create your own, as we saw with the yogurt bar, is awesome because it allows for that variety and choice that students, number one, don't get bored, and they also feel involved in the breakfast process. Next slide, please. So overall, just kind of wrapping up with all of these ideas, I think it's super important to hear the student voice in all of this. So here you're hearing from me, and I've also been working with the lunch department at my school. So we work with Mashios, and it's awesome because we get to kind of plan out and have some say in what the breakfasts are. So it's really great to hear that student voice because we're the ones eating the meals, and we really want to make sure that our voice is heard. So that's it from me. Thank you so much.
Namuka, thank you so, so much. It is so important to hear a student voice. You are right. And I have jotted some notes down. I definitely have some questions that I will be asking at the end of the webinar. Again, as a reminder, if you have any questions, you can enter them into the bottom of your taskbar in the Q&A function. Okay, so next up, we are going to hear from Samantha King, a school nutrition operator in Caroline County Public Schools in Maryland.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I'm really happy to be here and having the opportunity to talk to you all about what our breakfast program looks like here in Caroline County. My name is Samantha King, and I'm the Food Operations Coordinator for Caroline County Public Schools. I'm a graduate from the Culinary Institute of America, and I have a background in restaurants and hotels. I was a banquet chef before making the move to child nutrition. This was very beneficial because I went from feeding hundreds of adult customers to hundreds of children. I've been a proud lunch lady for 28 years now, and I've never thought twice about going back to restaurants, ever. Feeding children is the best job in the world. Now, let's talk about breakfast. Next slide. We are a CEP district, and we participate in a program called Maryland Meals for Achievement, or MMFA. This basically translates into breakfast in the classroom. This program provides state funding to supplement federal reimbursement so breakfast can be offered to all students at no charge. A school is eligible when at least 40% of students qualify for free or reduced meals. Next slide. This is a map of Caroline County, Maryland. We are a rural school district located on Maryland's eastern shore. Caroline is known for its agriculture, as we are surrounded by beautiful farmland. We have 9 schools, and they all qualify for CEP and MMFA. There are a little over 5,600 students enrolled in our district. Our staff in these 9 schools deliver breakfasts each day to 307 classrooms. That's a lot of meals being moved around a school building. Last year, our daily participation was at 62%. Next slide, please. Here are a couple photos of cafeteria staff at Federalsburg Elementary School. They are packing, counting, and delivering breakfast cooler bags to each classroom a few minutes before students arrive for the day. This is an all hands on deck operation to ensure meals are delivered in a timely fashion and that all food remains hot or cold and is safe to serve. Next slide, please. Teachers and staff are part of the breakfast team. They're responsible for passing out a complete breakfast to students and mark off a tally sheet roster for any child who receives the breakfast. These photos show teachers, staff, and children all working together to make this happen each day. Next slide, please. Kids start their day having breakfast with their classmates. Breakfast has become a part of the classroom routine, and children quickly learn to put away their backpacks, go wash their hands, grab breakfast, and begin eating. Staff love the fact that this routine helps students settle down and get ready for their day. Aren't they so cute? Look at them having their breakfast at their class, at their desks. Next slide. And as we all know, food is fuel for our minds and our bodies. Children who have bellies full of a well-balanced breakfast learn better, are more focused, and have less trips to the school nurse. Data consistently shows that a hungry child will struggle to concentrate, which affects learning. So training staff is a really big part of this program. It's important that all teachers and staff understand the process and regulations food service programs must follow to stay compliant with federal guidelines. We created a training video for our district, and all teachers are required to watch it every year. This will help you understand how we do breakfast here in our district. If you can play the video, please.
Hello, everyone. We hope you had a wonderful summer. Today, I'm going to be walking you through each one of these slides discussing our breakfast in the classroom process. Feel free to listen or simply review at your own pace. Okay, so I know you may remember this presentation from last year, but don't skip to the end just yet. With our continued sustainability efforts, we have made a few minor changes to the breakfast in the classroom process. These adjustments are reflected in this presentation, so we just kindly ask that you thoroughly review all of these slides to ensure the changes are properly implemented. Breakfast is a fundamental part of our students' day, and we are so thankful to you for helping to make breakfast in the classroom successful. What exactly is breakfast in the classroom? Breakfast in the classroom is, of course, exactly what it says it is: breakfast in the classroom. There's a tad more to it, though. Maryland Meals for Achievement MMFA is a state and federally funded program that provides free breakfast to all students through reimbursement to the school food services. Maryland leads the country in ensuring students can start the day ready to learn with MMFA. Why it's so important. Breakfast has been suggested to positively affect learning in children in terms of behavior, cognition, and school performance. All 9 Caroline County schools qualify for MMFA, and we have seen a significant improvement in student attendance, student behavior, and less visits to the school nurse. So now let's break down how breakfast in the classroom actually works. We have broken this whole process down into 3 main steps. Here's step 1. Breakfast cooler bags will be packed in the cafeteria by staff prior to distribution. Cooler bags will then be delivered to your room each morning 15 minutes before students arrive. Now here's where we've made a minor change. With our sustainability efforts, we have removed the overuse of plastic bags. Previously, we had used the plastic bags to bundle the entree item with a fruit or juice, as this is what constitutes a complete meal. With all items now stored together in the cooler bags, it is important to note that each student must still receive an entree and a fruit or juice. As I mentioned in the previous slide, a complete breakfast is 1 entree plus 1 fruit or fruit juice. Milk is optional. Here's step 2. Each cooler bag will have your class lists with students' names and Monday through Friday listed at the top. This form needs to be filled out each morning by a teacher or an adult over 18 years of age. When a student selects an entree and a fruit or juice, the teacher must check off the student's name for that day's breakfast. This must be done at the time of service, not before the meals are taken or after the meals have been served. Filling out these checklists properly is imperative for the program to receive reimbursement. Here's step 3. Once breakfast is complete, place the class list back into the cooler bag along with any meals not taken. Put the bag outside your classroom door for cafeteria staff to pick up. Any extra meals not taken and not checked off must be returned to the cafeteria to be counted. A share table may be used in your classroom for food options your students took and did not eat. Meals that were taken and checked off may not be returned to the cafeteria. We understand that with the changes made this year, there may be more questions than normal. Cafeteria managers will be happy to answer any questions you may have about this program and assist you and your students with anything you may need. We want to thank you once again for helping to make breakfast in the classroom a success for the children in Caroline County. We hope you all have a wonderful year.
So this video has really helped us to get the correct info out to our teachers about our breakfast program. And it's become a really important tool in our county that we use each year for back to school meetings and trainings. And I would highly encourage anyone who does breakfast in the classroom or has any type of teachers or staff helping with the point of sale or tally sheets to have some sort of training video. It has really helped us. Next slide. We've seen a significant increase in participation in our program when we became an all CEP district. CEP and MMFA has helped with participation because all students receive a free meal at breakfast and lunch. There's no longer the stigma associated with certain kids going to the cafeteria in the mornings to get breakfast. In the past, many children would pass the opportunity to get a meal due to the social shame or negative perception associated with free meals. Teachers have also helped us increase participation by being excited about the meal. They love the program because breakfast has become a part of their daily routine, and hunger is a major distraction. Another thing we do is plan student taste tests throughout the year. I like to make kids be a part of the menu planning process. Their feedback and input is valuable because they are our customers and they eat with us every day. And our social media pages have been a terrific way for us to connect with parents, community partners, and students. We take lots of photos and videos of our food, our serving lines, and our staff. We want parents to see the great choices their kids have when dining in the school cafe. We encourage our staff to participate in school events like back to school night, community and school events, field day, etc. This allows our staff to be a part of their school community. Next slide. I hope I've been able to paint a clear picture of our breakfast program here in Caroline County. Thanks for allowing me to share what we do here. And we are just really happy to be part of these kids' journey and education. And we're very proud about the impact that we make in our kids' lives every day. Thanks.
Thanks, Samantha. That was really fantastic and eye-opening to see from an operator's perspective all the different pieces to make it work. We know these programs are very complicated. There are a lot of regulations, and it can really take a whole community to come together to make breakfast in the classroom a success. But I think it's imperative to show all of the work that goes behind training and educating so that we're following the regulations accordingly and that we're following all the rules. I really appreciated you saying the comment about a hungry child struggles to concentrate. You know, one time we were talking with a teacher who said, and it only takes one disrupted child to disrupt an entire classroom. And so really, while these programs provide a direct and immediate and tremendous benefit for children who might be coming from a low-income household, they are nutritious and beneficial to all children within the school. And so the fact that Caroline County Public Schools is offering all children free breakfast and lunch and incorporating breakfast into the classroom each day speaks to that community engagement and the value that you put on nourishing all of your students. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. And now we're going to pass it over to Riona Kaur from New Hampshire Hunger Solutions to share the advocates' perspective on how they are working with schools and districts to increase breakfast participation.
Thank you, Erin. My name is Riona Kaur. I am the Deputy Director for New Hampshire Hunger Solutions. Next slide, please. We are a policy and advocacy nonprofit that its main goal is to end food security for all, increase access in nutritious food, and address hunger's root cause for all people in New Hampshire. We are also nonpartisan, so we do not take any political sides, and we believe that feeding children is a nonpartisan issue. Next slide. New Hampshire Hunger Solutions likes to think of our systems as a power grid. So we can see that there are some patchy areas and people connected to food and access to food, healthy food, and there are some that have some splotchy areas. And we want to make sure that everyone is well connected into the grid for a healthy life. Next slide. New Hampshire is very unique compared to the other partners we see here. We are in the bottom 10 for school breakfast participation. We ranking 46 currently. Last year we were 47th out of the nation for school breakfast participation. We understand that there are eligible children who are not enrolled in free and reduced meals, and we are missing out on the funding there. We also see a large SNAP gap. So those eligible individuals who could participate in SNAP but are not, and as well as the gap in services receiving WIC. Next slide. This is where New Hampshire Hunger Solutions has taken on school breakfast as a priority in our strategic plan. So we want to increase the school breakfast participation and didn't really know a couple years ago how to get into this school. So we knew the health benefits because of our wonderful partner of FRAC, and how to educate and outreach and market to the community, but getting into the school was a little bit hard. Next slide. We wanted to use the collective impact model to really build the relationships first. So in 2020 and 2021, unfortunately, right after the pandemic, we worked on some relationship building. We wanted to foster the relationships in knowing that relationships move at the speed of trust. We can't just walk into the schools are shut down, and who's going to listen to someone from a political advocacy group talking about how to feed kids? So we wanted to focus that first year on relationship building. We also, during the legislative session, wanted to protect funding for outreach and enrollment for all of the federal nutrition programs. So we collaborated and partnered around this with our other advocacy groups and our partners that we were building those relationships with. We used evidence-based approaches, such as the Breakfast After the Bell model. We also adopted Minnesota's Project Breakfast Toolkit and marketing strategies to really understand where the barriers are to connect those children into the school meal programs. And we always wanted to bring it back to the communities. In New Hampshire, we have a very different landscape. We have some oceans, we have lake regions, we also have way up where there is a food desert in New Hampshire in the northern part of the state. So we wanted to hear from the community and bring all of our work back to the community to make sure that it is impactful. So we have hired on some community consultants. So people with lived experience, and that in our school breakfast work is actually those students, teachers, parents, and the most important, the food service directors. Next slide, please. One of our major partners during this relationship building process was the UNH Cooperative Extension program over at the University of New Hampshire, which is a major college here in the great state of New Hampshire. So our relationship there created a challenge that we wanted to push out. So the first year we did a pilot of the school breakfast challenge. We wanted a fun, friendly, competitive, but also marketing strategies with evidence-based approaches, and really have the schools compete against each other, just knowing how we can get the kids involved, teachers, food service, and even the parents. And with the current forecasts in our politics, we unfortunately have lost some funding in New Hampshire, so we don't know how it's actually going to be moving forward. Our capacity here for the school breakfast challenge is a little bit limited, but we are making do with some funding through the Hannaford Foundation and our great partner of New England Dairy, who's pushing out some grants for the schools. Next slide. Part of the school breakfast challenge in New Hampshire is we adopted the research model of the school breakfast nudge toolkit from UNH Cooperative Extension. And we used the nudges to be techniques so that we can just market. We kind of think of it as subliminal messaging, but it's really actually in front of everyone's face. So not only doing taste testings with the students, but realizing that we really wanted to talk to the parents as well. So those lower elementary school kids are getting information from their parents. And the school breakfast challenge wasn't just for those who are in free and reduced, although we do want to close the gap in the services of free and reduced, increasing those who are receiving free lunch. We wanted them to get free breakfast as well. We also wanted to increase participation of paid individuals into the school breakfast because that is pure revenue for the school. And we are seeing a lot of school meal debt at the end of the year in New Hampshire. Next slide. These are just some examples of how the great work that UNH has done to promote the healthy behaviors within the schools. So our UNH Cooperative Extension Group has teachers within the school. So we partnered with them so that they could do the taste testings. New Hampshire Hunger Solutions could provide the funding and use our child nutrition manager, who's on the call to take questions, Trisha LaBelle, to really be the boots on the ground, giving the bulletin boards, the creating some funny riddles for the kids. We even have a couple weeks out of the year that we provide little trinkets to the kids. If you come get school breakfast, you can get a fidget spinner. If you come get school breakfast, you will get a squishy toy. We also had banana keychains one time. So anything to get the kids involved in getting some outreach to the parents about how healthy the meals are. Next slide. These are some examples of morning announcements. In the first year, we realized that a lot of the schools across New Hampshire weren't even promoting school breakfast. They had it listed on their website, but it wasn't during morning announcements. So we just provided some fun ideas of morning announcements that administrators or the kids could actually do for the students and the offerings of that day and the next day. Next slide. We always want to involve school administrators, as Erin said in the beginning, and our lessons learned in the first year was that we really needed food service to be on board. So if there was administrators on board and, wanted to do the challenge, we definitely wanted to check in with the food service directors and the staffing capacity, because we have seen that capacity within the kitchen is limited. Next slide. While doing so with that lessons learned, New Hampshire Hunger Solutions decided to create a school nutrition advisory committee, which we call the snack committee, which is perfect for food service directors. And we wanted to take the conversations from the cafeteria into the conversations that are happening across the state. There is an ample opportunity for all food service directors to get down and sit because of the busy schedules. So we use this group during all times of the year to just state, hey, school breakfast challenge is starting. What do you need? What do you see? How can we help you? And capacity was number one. We also realized that there was a lot of stigma, or the meeting times of the school breakfast meetings were not at the accurate time. So we actually shifted everything the second and third year to be at the perfect times for food service directors to come to the meetings. And since we are a policy and advocacy group, during legislative session, any policies that we are going to testify for, we ask them at this committee. Can you tell a story? Can you give us some statistics? Could you share what you see in your cafeteria about, for example, stigma of free and reduced meals? And of course, the number one thing during the group is we wanted to celebrate all the wins along the way to foster that community and the collective impact of all the work that's happening across the state. Next slide. And of course, every year there's National School Breakfast Week, so which is during the end of the school breakfast challenge. Our challenge starts around September. We like to say you have a month to sign on to the challenge. And then during the May, we celebrate all the wins along the way during the National School Breakfast Week. So we promote this time to come into the school and really do a celebration. We had kids, the staff dress up as bananas one time, hand out some great community organization trinkets and swag. Department of Education came and celebrated with the kids. Balloons are handed out. So in the hallways, just talking about breakfast and giving taste testings to the parents in the school drop-off line, and doing flyers and vinyl banners across the school. Next slide. We did also have a lessons learned from 23-24 school breakfast challenge. that they wanted our New Hampshire Hunger Solutions theme to match the National School Breakfast Week theme. So we have adopted that as a great lessons learned because it was getting a little confusing between the themes. This theme, the School Nutrition Association is doing the Quest for School Breakfast. So you can see that we're using our knights and armor and kind of thinking Dungeons and Dragons type of situations to these little fruits and vegetables, which is our school breakfast mascot. Next slide. This is our example of the school breakfast challenge sign-on. So this was from 2023, and you can see that there's 3 tiers that a school could sign on to. So they could do tier 1, 2, or 3, dependent on their capacity. And it kind of is a building block off of what the capacity could be. So if the school does have a SNAP education teacher within the school, they may have more capacity than a school that just has no, in a rural area who doesn't have a lot of staffing and is going to need a little bit more handholding along the way, and which our staff at Hunger Solutions can help. We also have food access coalitions across the state at New Hampshire Hunger Solutions. We really bring everything back to the communities. And so if the capacity is low within the school, we connect them to the food access coalition in their region, and the coalition can help at any capacity that they need. They could come to outreach events, back to school events, Title I events, and just talk about the importance and the health benefits of school breakfast. Our superhero tier this year of 2023 was including the breakfast after the bell. So in each year, our tier 3 is including breakfast after the bell to be implemented within the school. Next slide. These are just simple steps about School Breakfast Challenge sign-on, but I really wanted to state some facts that New Hampshire Hunger Solutions has seen and learned along the way. So 2021, we had one school that was a pilot program for the School Breakfast Challenge. We actually realized going into the school that they did offer breakfast after the bell. They just closed the cafeteria doors. And so the kids didn't know that they could go in. So that was a kind of a little easy switch that we could do in that pilot year. And that turned to a breakfast after the bell school. In our second year, which was my first year at Hunger Solutions, we had 4 schools sign on to the challenge. And within that, we had one school as a top runner that increased school breakfast participation by 30%, which was huge. So we actually awarded them the Nutrition Award at our New Hampshire Hunger Solutions Summit. And they received a food service monetary value of $1,000 to their food service granted by New England Dairy Association. In our following year, we grew to 16 schools, and that was last year. And during this whole time of the School Breakfast Challenge from September to May of last year, we had increased from 16 schools to 46 schools sign on to the School Breakfast Challenge. Our capacity was maximum. So we are making some changes currently since our UNH partners have dropped capacity, that we're going to group our partner meetings as tier 1 groupings and meet all together, tier 2 groupings and meet all together. Currently, as of right now, we have 50 schools signed on across the state of New Hampshire to the challenge to increase school breakfast participation. And I know it doesn't look huge, but we did go from 47th out of the nation for school breakfast to 46th, which is, it seems little on paper, but we are so excited to see it moving in the right direction because we are turning the curve on increasing breakfast participation and feeding more kids in the state of New Hampshire. Next slide, please. These are the fun things that we've done across the years. You can see our fun bananas down there. This school with the bananas, we were seeing that the kids were just not excited. And Fortnite was really big that year. So I actually took my kids' banana costumes from October, and I asked the staff to wear them and start handing out breakfast wearing banana costumes. And that worked. Simple little things to make it fun, easy, accessible for everyone in the school to increase the participation. Our main focus in some of the schools are bulletin boards, just for messaging and marketing. And parent taste testings, like I said, are huge. And we receive funding from Hannaford Foundation to do those taste testings for parents. Next slide. These are some of the message boards. In New Hampshire, we do not have Medicaid direct certification. We do have SNAP direct certification. So we know that the SNAP participation is at a different level than the free and reduced meal application. So we're 130% free and reduced, but 200% for SNAP. So we also market SNAP for those families who are not eligible for free and reduced, but could be eligible through direct certification. So that is a part of our strategic plan at New Hampshire Hunger Solutions as well. And then with our assessments, realizing that nutrition education is huge. And we are so grateful for our friends over at UNH Cooperative Extension who helped put together a nutrition education packet and toolkit. Next slide. And we'll save questions for the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Fiona. That was so great. I have so many notes. One, your materials are beautiful. The pictures, the images are great. I am a complete fan of catchy acronyms, so I love the snack committee and the celebrating all the wins, right? Like it can become tiring sometimes when you feel like you're going up this uphill battle. So I really enjoy the emphasis on celebrating the wins. And then I really haven't heard before about the parent taste testing. So I think that's so fantastic because oftentimes parents aren't aware of what schools are serving. They think about school meals as if they were the school meals they received way back when. And so much has changed around school meals over the last 15 years, and parents might not always be aware. So I think that's such a brilliant strategy.
I do want to say one thing. Last legislative session, we noticed that during our committee meeting that the legislators didn't believe school breakfast was healthy. So we hosted a legislative breakfast and catered through the Concord School in New Hampshire and served them school breakfast with all of the health benefits. And it was actually the breakfast that the kids were eating that day. And we had really great feedback for that. So if you have an advocacy group and you have a catering capability at your school, that's a really good way of increasing revenue as well as getting education.
All right, Steve, next slide, please. So on our website, and you can see the links here, you will get a copy of these slides if you registered for the webinar. We have a variety of resources. So I've highlighted our breakfast site, our community eligibility provision site, as well as our healthy school meals for all. Next slide, please. On the breakfast site specifically, you can find all of the research I mentioned about average daily participation and the number of students that participate in school breakfast and lunch over the years, history of the program, the benefits, so research briefs linking about breakfast to student health and breakfast to academic achievement, a variety of best practices related to the expansion strategies that we discussed today, as well as some research briefs and fact sheets, resources on special topics, say serving breakfast in secondary schools or rural communities. I've also highlighted one of our newest released resources, our Healthy School Meals for All State Advocacy Guide. If you remember back on the map that I showed, we have 9 states with Healthy School Meals for All policies, and the majority of the country moving towards their own unique state policy offering universal free school meals to all students. This guide is really geared to help those states that are in coalition building, when they might be introducing legislation, looking at different ways that they can get towards the ultimate goal of healthy school meals for all. And one of the steps along those way might be a universal breakfast program, as we're seeing in states like Arkansas, Pennsylvania, and then Samantha shared about how Maryland has their own state-funded breakfast program. Okay, next slide, please. We're going to turn it over to questions. If you have any questions, you can enter them into the chat feature or the Q&A feature at the bottom. And to start off, I'm going to invite all of our speakers to come back. And one thing that we've heard from everybody is really about the support and the variety of players that are involved in making a robust and successful breakfast program. So the question is, how do you go about working with principals and teachers and administrators to get them on board with expanding school breakfast? My experiences, and I think this question is talking about food services. The food service director is in agreement, they want to expand breakfast, but how do we message that to maybe other decision makers like principals and superintendents within a school district? And I think it'd be interesting to hear from everyone's perspective on this one. So Mukta, if you want to start and talk about how you are working with maybe principals or how you've messaged the importance of breakfast.
Yes, absolutely. So we work directly with the lunch administrators at our school. There's a student committee, and essentially this allows us to get our student voice heard. So we kind of talk about things we'd like to see on the menu, things that are working, things aren't working, and just making sure that our needs are being met by the program.
Excellent. How about Samantha, from your perspective as a nutrition operator, what messaging has really resonated with principals or teachers who might be hesitant to allow food in the classroom?
We're really lucky. We have a very good Board of Education here in Caroline County that supports all of our initiatives. So they help push those initiatives through. And we also come from a high need area. So teachers see the benefit of their kids having something to eat, something in their bellies, they have them ready to learn. So it hasn't been a big push for us to make this happen, but I would say feed your staff, that's if take them breakfast, take them lunch, invite them to come sit down and have a meal with you. Our food service director and our superintendent goes to every school throughout the school year and has lunch together, and they come through the line with the kids and they eat with the kids and talk with the kids. And that's huge. Inviting them to come share a meal with you, it does wonders, especially when they can see all the wonderful benefits.
You're right. And it's also breaking down some of that like mystery of what is school meals, right?
Absolutely.
Riona, do you have anything to add about how you're getting in front of like educators and really promoting the power of breakfast?
We have a great group who is involved in the School Board Association, and there's two ways that we like to promote it. Is we also use the data for behavior modifications. So if a child is not eating breakfast, the more apt to be hangry or grouchy before lunch. So we ask that it can change that behavior modification. Instead of getting a write-up, why don't we just offer them breakfast? And then the major thing is we talk about school meal debt and how it can help the school meal debt at the end of the year become a little bit more feasible for the school.
That's a great point. We could have a whole webinar on school meal debt. All right, next slide, please, Steve. I know we are at time, top of the hour. Thank you so much to all of our fantastic presenters. Thank you for all of you for joining us today, and we wish you a healthy and happy school year. Connect with us online. You can reach out to me at any time, and you can reach out if you have questions for our presenters specifically. Thank you, everybody.